everyone to our Finance Committee meeting of September the 10th, 2025, and begin with an acknowledgement that we are privileged to meet on the unceded and the ancestral territories of the Squamish and the Tsilhqot'in Nations. There is a recommendation
that the agenda of this meeting be approved.
Thank you, Lisa, and a seconder. Thank you, Melissa. Any objections? Seeing none, that's carried. There's some minutes.
That the minutes of the Finance Committee meeting held on June 18th, 2025 be adopted.
Thank you, Lisa, and a seconder. Thank you, Melissa. Any objections? Seeing none, that's also carried, which brings us to our presentations. And our first presentation is the presentation of our financial statement audit, which was conducted by Grant Thornton. And so at this time, I'll turn that over to the people from Grant Thornton who are joining us via Zoom.
Thank you. And maybe I'll just give a very high-level summary of the audit for the school district's 2025 year end. I guess the audit is basically done in 3 phases. The first is planning for the audit. So we spend some time speaking with management, updating our knowledge of your processes, considering what's new and exciting for the school district, and then developing our audit plan. And that audit plan was discussed with the Finance Committee back in your meeting on June 18th. So that's the first part of our audit process. The next stage of the audit process is the execution of the audit. And so we spend some time doing some detailed testing in terms of sampling of transactions and asking lots of questions of management. So thank you to Elena and Danielle and the team for answering all of our questions. Spend some time both virtually as terms of a hybrid environment, analyzing data, and spent some time at the school district offices doing the audit. We use some technology in terms of our audit process, and some, in particular, one piece of technology where we can put all of the school district's data into this tool, and it analyzes kind of the transactions that have been posted and identifies the higher risk transactions for us to specifically look at in terms of just general testing, but trying to target our testing to specific areas. And so the execution piece in terms of the year-end audit was completed in August and into early parts of September. And then the last piece of the audit is reporting. And so looking at the draft financial statements that management prepares and assessing whether the disclosures and everything else in terms of the numbers are appropriate, and also discussing the results of the audit with both management and the Finance Committee, which we have done, and presenting kind of a detailed audit results report, which we have done. So we've done all of those stages of the audit: planning, execution, and reporting. And we are, once the Board of Trustees formally approves the statements, we are in a position that we can finalize the audit for the year ended June 30th, 2025. So it was a really clean audit process this year, and just always very thankful to management for helping us and being patient with us as we ask them lots of questions during the audit process.
Thank you very much, Donna. I was very pleased with the report that was sent to all of the trustees. And again, I feel quite confident that the process was very clean, that things went quite smoothly. All questions were answered quite thoroughly, and I think to everyone's satisfaction. So thank you very much to you and to your team for all of the work that you did, and of course to Danielle and the finance department here at the school board for the attention to detail that they provide, and really the great work that they're doing in ensuring the financial stability of the district. It's crucial. So I just like to thank everyone for really just doing a fantastic job and being so careful and giving us a feeling of trust that everything is working well and moving along smoothly. There is a motion that will come up a little bit later in the agenda. And so we'll move that at this meeting, and then once again, it will appear at the open board meeting later on this evening. But I think for now, we can thank you so much for the presentation that you gave at our open board meeting. You're very welcome to stay online and join us for the remainder of the finance committee.
I have just one comment.
And yeah, I'll open it up to comments before you go.
So thank you. And thank you to Donna. So this is just for the benefit of the public, just to understand the processes because you are not present for closed meetings. So every year we have the opportunity to meet with the auditors in a closed meeting and ask all sorts of questions. And the board does meet with the auditors without staff present. So we have full access to get an understanding of what is happening behind the scenes, including any risks that the district might be facing. So I just want the public to know that we do take a very, very close look at what is happening. The financial statements are reported. What can be reported publicly is reported within our agenda items so that everyone can look, but know that we're taking a much deeper dive behind the scenes as our duty is to do so. And that, Donna is always so lovely and kind, but her job is really scrutiny. And so she's coming in a respectful way, but the work that they're doing is to very closely scrutinize what is happening in the district. And I can say today that based on what we've seen, we feel confident that everything is going smoothly for the time being. We thank Danielle for her hard work and making everything easy to understand over the years. So just so everyone has a good understanding of that, because if you don't see what's happening, you might not predict that that's what's happening also.
It's true. That is true. That is true. Thank you, Celeste. Okay, any other comments or questions? Seeing none, thank you once again. And with that, you're welcome.
We'll probably sign
Or
off. Thank you,
you can
everyone.
listen along. Okay. All right. Enjoy
All
the
right.
rest of your day, and thank you once
Okay.
again. We'll see you next year.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. All right. Thank you so much. Okay, that leads us to our second presentation of the morning, which is the financial statements overview / variance analysis. And I'll turn that over to Danielle, our secretary treasurer.
Thank you. So we do have Elena Medin, our finance director, who's joining us. She's zooming in. So if we have she prepared the financial statements and the financial discussion and then financial statement discussion analysis. So if you have any particular questions, she's online to help us answer those questions. And just also thank you, Elena, and her team did an awesome job with the audit. She was like the primary person who dealt with the auditors. So thank you for all your work with that, Elena. I appreciate it. I'm going to pull up the financial statements, and I'm going to go over any variances over $1 million I usually do. And I just want to note that in the financial statement discussion and analysis, there's actually a bunch of variance analysis in there, like on a very detailed level as well. So I will just pull up the financial statements and we can go through that together. Just a minute here. There we go. Wait a minute here. It looks like it's all up there. Okay, so I'm just going through the main financial statements. There's many pages in this document, but what I'm going through is the statement of financial position, which is to some others might be known as the balance sheet. And then I'll be also going through the income statement, or what we call it, the statement of operations. So I'm going to start out with the statement of financial position. So this statement shows all of your assets and liabilities in a district. And the first column here is what the 2025 balances were at as of June 30th, 2025. And then the second column is what the balances were at as of June 30th, 2024. So for this one, the first item that's one has over $1 million difference is cash and cash equivalents. So I don't know if everybody recalls, but any of the balance sheet items, especially cash and accounts payable, quite often there's timing differences. And so last year we actually also had an increase in our cash balance. So our cash balance is very healthy. Just to show you as an example, right now it's showing that we have accounts payable of 8.5 million and we have cash of 17.9. So that just shows you that we would be able to pay off anything sitting in our accounts payable at the moment, which is great. So that shows you that we're in a good cash position. And so basically, when there's more cash typically sitting in the account, it's because there hasn't been, because usually when payables are higher, then cash is higher as well, because you still have stuff you have to pay off. So that's the case here. So there was an increase in cash, and it's a timing difference between when funds are received, when we receive funds from the government, and when payments are made. So when I go to the next item where there's $1 million more difference, it's also in accounts payable. So that's also $1 million higher. So it kind of makes sense. They're kind of offsetting each other, right? So the timing difference is, once again, if you have more in cash, and you have more in payables, they kind of explain each other. Does that make sense? Does anyone have any questions about that?
No, that's a good explanation. Thank you, Danielle.
Okay. I have nothing else on this page that I was going to dive into, but just before I go on to the next page, is there any questions on here at all? No. Okay, I'll skip over to statement of operations. Elena, feel free to jump in if you feel like I'm missing something too. Okay, so in this statement, this shows all the revenues and all the expenses for the school district. So the first column is this is our original budget, the 2025 budget that we passed in June 30th, 2024. So this is not the amended budget. This is the original budget. And we have that there because that's public sector accounting standards, where you have to, in your statement, show your first budget that you've passed. And everybody may recall that in our first budget, we're very conservative with our projections. So it's always going to be lower than typically it's lower than what's in the actual. And then the next column is the 2025 actual. So that's what the end of the year results were at June 30th. And then the 2024 actual is the previous year. So June 30th, 2024, what the amounts were there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through first I'm going to go over any changes between the budget and the actual, which like over $1 million between these two. And then I'll also be doing the difference between this year and last year, any changes over $1 million. Okay.
Great, thank you.
So the first item that is, there's a change between budget and actual. It's usually always the same ones, just so everybody knows. It's usually always provincial grants and instruction, because they always offset each other. When we receive more money in grants, then we always end up spending more usually on teachers, which is what's mostly in instruction. So the provincial grants were up by $5.4 million. And this increased because our enrollment was higher than our original budget, as we all know. So that's the difference between that one. And then the next one is other revenue. And the actuals are higher by 1.2 million from the budget. And so this is because we had increased revenue from school generated funds, as well as donations and fees, which is offset also by a decrease in deferred school generated funds, which is like funds that have restrictions on them. So we had a decrease in those because the schools have been really good at actually spending that in the last couple of years and stuff that have restrictions on them, trying to pay down the balances we had for that. Any questions on that? On the other revenue?
Just going back to, can you remind me what the budget, the number of students that we budgeted and then the actual, what was the difference?
Oh, I don't.
If you don't know off the top of your head, it just seems like such a big jump, like.
Yeah, I can't recall offhand. Do you remember, Elena? Or maybe Paul might remember too, I'm not sure. I think it was like 200.
Or a better question is, why was there such a surprising increase in students? Like what variable changed why we got more kids unexpectedly?
From what I recall, I think it was like around 240 something students. And I believe it's, at the time, the Berriger projections were showing like there was going to be a decrease. And also we were very conservative under kindergarten. We just mostly we like to stick to what we have for registrations, and often like registrations will pour in later in the year. So.
Sometimes there are things that we can't. Sometimes there are things that we can't really plan for, like some summers there are just more folks who are moving in, and it catches us off guard as well, despite our projections from Berriger. I can kind of let you know that that's not going to be the case this year. I'll be talking about that tonight, and we're much tighter to our original projection. Certainly not 200 or even 100. So there's some years that are just it's very difficult to predict the number of folks who might be coming into the district.
I think I do recall the Berringer report saying that year that we'd see a significant decrease, and then that didn't really come to fruition. So.
Yeah, I mean, I'd have to look back at the report that I provided last year.
Yeah.
I'm just kind of trying to think off the top of my head, but yeah.
I think what I remember, I think we said it was going to be like a decline of 200 and something, and we actually ended up being about 40 over the previous year. So it actually ended up being closer to 300. But yeah. Okay.
If I may add, just to remind that we're comparing to an annual budget, regional, and students are usually very conservative. And also another reason that contributes to such increase, even if number of students is the same, we have supplemental funding for unique student needs. And this alone, like for inclusive education, learning language and other, and this alone was over 1 million more in amended budget compared to annual budget. So we have more students requiring more students with special needs, and this supplemental funding was a big increase compared to our original budget.
Thanks for that, Elena.
Okay, then our next item, as I mentioned, is instruction. So it's interesting because the provincial grants were higher by 5.4 million and the instruction costs were higher by 5.4 million.
Wow.
So yeah, so they're directly related to each other. So that's made up of the increase in salaries and benefits, and there was a slight decrease of 0.5 million in supplies and services. So the majority of the increases is going to salaries and benefits. And the next item is operations and maintenance, this item here. So the difference between the budget and the actual expenses are, majority of it's also salaries and benefits, and 0.2 million of it is for supplies and services. That is almost 1.2 million difference between budget and actuals. I just wanted to pause there before I move over to comparison of year over year, if anyone has any questions. Okay, keep watering on.
Seeing none, carry on.
Thank you. Okay, so year over year, The provincial grants from the ministry were higher higher last year compared to the previous year by 4.8 million. We do know that there was an increase in per student funding, and we also had a slight enrollment increase. So that explains the increase there. And also, like Alana mentioned, we got additional funding for students with unique factors in there. There's also additional revenue for special purpose fund grants and capital as well. Okay, any questions on that? So that's this line here. And that's all on the revenue side. That was over $1 million. Everything was really quite close to the previous year. And then for the expenses, there was instruction here again. So instruction increased this year 3.8 million from the prior year, and that is related to salary and benefit increases for teachers and support staff. So those are all of the variances over $1 million, and we'll be going through a little bit. There's further information in the financial statement discussion analysis document too.
Just looking at the transportation and housing, almost all of the money in that line item is going to be for transportation. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And then I noticed that what was budgeted, what we spent was much less. Is that just due to the driver shortages?
Compared to the budget?
That's right.
Yeah, I don't know, Lena maybe knows further. I don't think we had that much driver shortages last year.
I think it's mostly related, I'm sure it's mostly related to amortization. We didn't quite complete all our capital projects, so we couldn't start amortizing them. So that also contributed a little bit to this amount.
Okay, thank you.
So, is this busing amortization that's been sitting in there? Bus amortization?
Yes.
Okay.
And
Okay. So I didn't plan on going through the rest of the financial statements, but is there anyone have any questions about the financial statements themselves? Because if not, I'll jump into the financial statement discussion and analysis. Any questions about the statements? I'm just gonna close this document. Just stop sharing for 1 minute, just 1 second. So I can pull the other document. Chair, is it okay if I jump in?
Yes, of course.
Okay.
Go right ahead. Yeah,
Um,
now I have the people when I don't have the
Yeah.
agenda.
My plan is I'll go through if everyone's okay with this, I'll go through the financial statement discussion and analysis. And then do we want to do all of the motions at the end?
I think that will probably.
Is that okay with everyone else? Because we have 3 motions today. Okay.
Oh, there we go.
Just 1 moment.
And then I noticed we also have Ian here.
Yes, Ian will be doing minor capital, sorry.
Great.
Just gonna upload this document as well.
Thanks for explaining that, how you did, Danielle. That was really great.
Oh, that's good.
Really, it was easy to understand. Made lots of good sense.
I think you're getting better and better at predicting what the questions will be as we go through this.
Well, I've been doing this for I've been doing variance analysis for a long time. Okay, so here's our financial statement discussion and analysis. Elena's prepared this. You did an excellent job of that. Thank you, Elena. So this might look a little bit different next year because we might be adding some comparisons for budget next year. So amended budget, so we'll have to see what that looks like. But just a heads up, we might be seeing a little bit of a change next year on this one. And I'm just going to just go over some highlights from this report. So skip over here. This second page here just goes through this first part of it, just goes through accounting standards and practices. I won't be going through that with you at all. I will quickly go over some of the highlights with everybody. This is our third year of our local education agreement, where it's actually been in place and working for accounting purposes with Lilwat Nation. And so that's one item just for everyone to be aware of. And then there's the revenue that we received from that, from Lilwat Nation last year. From the previous bargaining, we did have some labor settlement funds come in from the government on that. And for international students, the student count came in slightly lower than the budget and slightly lower than the previous year. I think it was just only 1.8. So it's very, very close to the budget and very close to the previous year. I want to tell you here. This is just some of our funds that we've received in the last year. We received 615,000 for the Feeding Futures program. Also, the school district spent $218,000 on student, family, and affordability. And a lot of that was actually funds from the previous year that hadn't been spent yet. And what else do we have here? We received $175,000 from the ministry for early learning and childcare leads, and also close to $60,000 for early childhood educator dual credit. We also received $225,000 for a new literacy grant. So we have plans to be spending that. We didn't have time to spend it last year because we got it like towards the end of the year. So we'll be spending that this year. Any questions so far? Nothing?
Just because it's a public meeting, just to clarify, the grant is for this year. So we did receive it last year, but districts are putting the plans together. We have a due date in October to provide our plan to the ministry. So just wanted to make sure folks didn't think, gosh, why are they spending the money last year? It's actually for this school year.
2025, 2026.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. I have one other question. With the affordability fund, is that can be carried over like every year to year all the time?
We last year, the ministry for the 25-26 year, they haven't announced any new funding for that for this upcoming year. So it sounds like, just from what we're hearing, is that they were really pushing us to spend it all. So I had a feeling that they might claw it back. So I pushed us to spend pretty much all of it last year. We only had like $2,000 left over.
Oh.
So they have been letting us carry it forward, but on other grants, they've actually started clawing back stuff that we haven't spent. So we're really mindful about spending that last year, because we don't know if we're going to get any more funds for it. It doesn't look like it at this point. Doesn't sound like it. So
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting. Thanks for that.
Okay. This is like the most important part, I think, anyways. So the school district ended in a surplus for $266,568. In the preliminary budget, this is not the amended budget, the first budget that we set, we had budgeted for a deficit of $566,211. So that surplus I just mentioned is made up of operating and capital funds. So the operating itself had a surplus of $645,653, which was offset by a capital deficit of $379,085. So the surplus is a combination of those things. Okay. And I just want to say that the surplus is a result of a combination of things. So last year we received an additional $2 million in special purpose funds from the ministry. And what that allowed us to do is to use that funds, like some of that we can use that for staffing. So we actually utilize those funds to offset some of our operating staffing costs. So that actually helped us. So we actually received an additional $2 million in classroom enhancement fund, and we used it.
And it was a wonderful day when we learned.
That's great.
So,
Yeah.
thanks for the.
And that's thanks to Elena, who is like very diligent about making sure that what we've requested is enough to cover like all the expenses we have. So Elena's done a fantastic job of making sure we're getting enough money. She's been very diligent exercise for her. So thank you, Elena, for that.
Thank you.
Okay. So what else did I want to go over? Oh, as a result of the surplus, accumulated operating surplus increased from 3.9 million to 4.5 million. So I'm actually just going to go to the graph here so you can see that here. So you can see in the graph here, the accumulated surplus is made up of operating and capital funds, and it amounts to 10 million. So approximately 4.6 million is operating and 5.5 million is capital. And the 4.6 million is split between special purpose funds and unrestricted here. So, and just as a reminder, the unrestricted amount is kind of like our emergency amount. So I don't think it's in this report, but it's hovering as of June 30th around 1.99%, which is like it's pretty good. It's what we would like it to be at. So our benchmark is between 1 and 4. We want it to be 1 and 4. 1, it was actually very close to being 1 in the last couple of years. So we're happy to see it has been bumped up a little bit further.
That's really good news.
Yeah. Okay, and we'll just move down to there. So this graph displays the full-time equivalent students over the past 10 years, as well as the accumulated operating surplus. And as I mentioned, you can see that it's increased a bit here. So that's good. And yeah, we just have to make sure that we continue to stay within that range, that we be diligent about making sure there's enough money set aside for unexpected costs or potential enrollment declines. Okay, any questions before I move on here? Okay, the next one, this is a capital. These are capital investments. So in this little table here, you could see we had additions of $4 million. So our assets increased by that, but then we also had disposals of $1.5 million. So ending in a balance of 133. And this little table here just shows you what they are with amortization included. So it'd be this less amortization equals these ones. And here are our capital projects from last year. So we had a whole bunch of HVAC projects. Some of them are continuation from the prior year. We had Whistler Secondary. We have 2 Statmas. We had probably different phases. Mount Clem Elementary and Myrtle Phillip Elementary. They all had HVAC projects. I think some of them are wound up now. We had we received 2 new school buses last year. And there's also at the bottom, maybe it's on the next page here, there's like further information on some of the other capital projects that we have. I'm just going to jump into the revenue section here. So for this, the revenue is made up of operating revenue, which is in dark blue. I don't know if that's big enough. Is that big enough for everyone? There.
Oh, that's better.
That's better?
Yeah, it was good before, but now it's really good.
Oh, God. Okay, so operating revenue is dark blue, capital revenue is gray, 4 million there, and special purpose fund revenue is it's medium blue here. And in this other graph, the operating revenue is further broken down into grant revenues, the lighter green color, the other revenue is dark green, and then international revenue is orange. So,
Go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to comment quickly before we get too far away. It really provides confidence to see that the capital projects either came in at the projected or below. And so thank you for including, because that's a litmus test of
Yeah.
how projects are managed within the district. And that's probably you and Ian working very closely together. But thanks for including that.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you, Ian, for that. Okay. This is some different. Sorry, I'm just trying to make sure I can see this properly here on my side. Is that okay? Everyone see okay? Okay. This is just a different way of looking at the financials. So, let me just see. This chart breaks down the revenue in a table format. Overall, the revenue is higher by 4.9 million from the previous year. You can see that here. And there are, like down below, you can see more detailed explanations on why in this report here. So I won't go through all of that. And on the expense side, I'm just going to skip to the next page here. So the expenses, the light blue is instruction expenses, dark blue is district administration, and the green is operation maintenance, and orange is transportation. So this is how the expenses are showing here. This is expense by function. And it does show up like this in our financial statements. So this should look familiar to you because we just looked at those. And then I'll just go to the next table here. And now this is shown expenses by object. So you can see all the different salaries here. So dark blue, on the dark blue on this side, is total salaries. Green on the left is employee benefits. The lighter blue on the left is services and supplies, and gray is amortization. And then on the right side, the dark blue are salaries broken down. So the light blue on the right side is teacher salary, dark green is principal and vice principal salary, orange is educational assistant salaries, dark blue support staff, and the pink is other professionals, and light green is substitutes.
Danielle,
Mhm.
when it says salary substitutes, is that people like TTOCs for both the teaching staff and the EA staff?
I believe so.
Okay.
Alana can confirm that. Is that correct, Alana?
That's correct. All substitutes, EAs,
Okay.
custodians, drivers.
Drivers, everyone.
And
Okay.
bus drivers and, okay, so everybody in the whole district.
Yeah.
Okay, great, thank you.
And is the other professionals, the district staff?
Yeah, including yourself.
Okay.
Your salary's in there as well. Okay, any other questions there? This is just showing that in a table. Yeah. You can see that employee benefits have skyrocketed. Okay.
And is that part of, like, correct me if I'm wrong, because I don't exactly know what I'm talking about here, but when an organization buys into a benefit plan, you have a fee to pay, and have those fees gone up quite a bit?
Yeah, and a lot of these are like provincially negotiated rates.
Yeah, that
So
also. Okay.
it's like what all the, like, this isn't just us, like all the districts are, like whatever a Blue Cross is, like this kind of thing.
Mhm.
A lot of it is those, like it includes counseling and, physio, all of those things, glasses, all those kind of benefits. It's just significantly increasing
Okay,
every year, just going up and up and up.
okay, and that's because the providers of those benefit packages are charging more money.
Some of it, yeah,
Yeah.
they're charging more and we're basically required to do it. And also we actually do kind of like have a higher level for some of the options that we choose, because we want to be competitive and we want to be a competitive employer.
Mhm.
So
Okay, that makes good sense.
we want to
too.
make sure that
You're offering the people who work for you an attractive benefit.
Yeah.
So, yeah, of course.
That's right.
So you have some ability to shop around in terms of changing benefit providers should you want to, but I don't think that there's much variance in what.
I
the
don't think
cost
we're allowed to
is.
actually like Blue Cross, but like for instance, we use TELUS Health for like EFAP, like.
Yeah.
So we can actually shop around for that if we wanted to.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
but across the board, I don't think there's a lot of difference, even with the different service providers. It's all more.
I was just having a conversation with one of the other secretary treasurers, like that's also extremely expensive to have that additional, the EFAP services, so yeah. That's also one consideration. Okay, the next table here is just showing, this is based on full-time equivalent. So when we first saw this, we saw there was like a dip in these two. And which is support staff and also education assistants. And it sounded a little bit strange to us because we knew that we had more employees. So we actually have more people hired, but they've worked less hours for those two categories. So it's kind of interesting. So the amount of bodies that we have hired, they're just, yeah.
So would that translate into if there's more people working part-time schedules than full-time equivalents?
You got it. And then when we ask, hey, we've got some additional hours for you. Oh, actually, no, I'm good. I want my part-time, or so that's the differential. Yeah, we all raised our eyebrows when we saw that because we too were equating full-time equivalents with headcount, with bodies, and that's it's not the same. So I appreciate again, Elena did a deep dive in this with Phil and others in HR just to ensure we had the accurate information, and so we actually increased our support EAs, for example, last year compared to the year before, even though it shows less actual hours.
Can I ask, and I'm not sure, this might be a question that can't be answered in public because it has to do with labor negotiations, but and so don't answer if it's not appropriate, but do full-time and part-time employees have the same benefit packages? I don't know if you can answer that in public or not.
I think it's public knowledge that for example, the BCTF negotiated TOCs to have very similar, if not the same. I don't know the exact amounts, but it's quite comparable.
Okay.
I can't speak for acute people. I don't have that. Tips.
There's
We
also,
can get that.
there's also a percentage threshold, like a teacher working 20% doesn't get it, but I can't remember what the threshold is. Is it 40% now? Whatever it is, there is a
Okay.
threshold.
So there's
Yeah.
so it is significantly more expensive if you have, well, not significantly, but it's more expensive. You have two part-time people
Yes.
receiving the same benefit package
Yes.
than
If-
one
if they've met the
FTE with
threshold.
one benefit.
That's correct.
And then there's like, okay, that's interesting.
But you
Okay.
might not be able to get them full-time because it doesn't suit them, so you might be
Right.
forced
It-
to hire
yeah.
young people.
Totally, totally. It's, yeah, just math.
And of course,
Yeah.
for medical leaves, that's absolutely right, how we support our resilient
Of-
folks. So if
of
someone has
course.
a point to a point for medical
Yeah.
leave,
Oh,
we
of
hire
course.
to take over.
Yeah. Yeah, of course, but it,
But
yeah,
objectively,
But it-
awesome.
yeah, it
Yeah.
just, when you look at the math for, from the graphs above,
Mhm.
interesting. Okay, yeah. April, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I should know this, but I don't. I think I know, but do the employees and the employer equally pay into the benefit package?
Yeah,
I should know this. Like I said, yeah.
like dental, I think. I'd have to check.
We can get that.
Yeah.
That's.
I may say that besides extended health benefits, there is also benefits that include Canada pension plan and employment insurance that employer and also employer health tax and working board like BC Safe, Work Safe BC. All those are either like they have the employee portion and an employer portion. Those are also part of overall benefits besides extended health. And extended health except life insurance it's 100% employer paid.
Okay.
What was that again? Okay, but what about actual, like, all of the benefits that are medical, like massage and dentist, and that's more what I was referring to, the medical benefits, not QP, I mean, not WorkSafe BC and all the other things.
Except life insurance, all extended health benefits paid by employer. But if you need more details by a paid group, like support staff versus teachers versus administrative officers, we can provide that detailed information because it may vary from group to group.
Go ahead.
It would be public in all of the collective agreements. You would just have to Google
Yeah.
up the collective agreement for each of the,
Yeah.
like, the
We don't
separate
have
groups.
Dave in the room, so I-
Yeah.
Yeah, but all of that, like, probably in 5 minutes, you could find, you know, whether it's 80%, 100%, whatever it is, kind of thing.
Good. Thank you for that discussion. I think that's interesting information to have. Moving forward, when you do advocacy with the provincial government and you discuss why are we in education asking to be better funded or receive more funding. This is the kind of information that's really important to have and to understand so that we can, when we have the opportunity to speak to people who speak with government, express our concerns and have good reason to have those concerns. So thank you for that discussion. But in light of time, I'll ask Danielle to carry on with the rest of her report.
I'm pretty much done. So yeah, it's just a summary here and just information on how to contact me if you have any information. So did anyone have any questions about the rest of the report?
Go ahead, Celeste.
I just wrote down one thing. So just in terms of the discussion that we had with the auditor earlier, and going through your report, one of the things that I was wondering is the finance team adequately resourced to manage all of the grant applications, oversight functions, and then risk management that needs to be managed on a cyclical basis? And when is this assessed throughout the year? And when do you anticipate that you might need an increase in FTE in your team? Like, I don't know how you're you know, how do you do it all, Danielle?
Jump in, that's the
Okay.
deal. So what I will say is, and I really appreciate you bringing that up and bringing it up publicly. So the risk registry that is being spoken about is a new it sounds more of not a direction, but a recommendation, but it is something we recognize many districts are doing. And it does take an extraordinary amount of time. It is very complex, and many districts have brought in a third party to do that work. So we're having preliminary conversations around what that might look like. And yes, I would say we may be coming to the board to say we'd like to spend some money on an outside person. We've not increased FTE for finance in a very long time. So thank you for the question, because or the comment as well, because as the demands on the team increase, I want to be confident that they're able to continue the work in a good way and not be overly stressed. These are salaried employees who do work long hours. So I will just say on behalf of the team, thanks for bringing that up. And once we have a conclusion as to where we're going with the risk registry, for example, we may be asking for a little more FTE to support that. So thank you.
Thanks for that question, Celeste. I had written down risk registry in my notes, and I'm glad that we got a little bit more information about that, because that was something that was new to me
So important.
in that audit report. Great. Okay.
Just one more.
Oh, yeah, go ahead. Sorry, I don't mean to like rush. We have
Mhm.
until 12:15 for this meeting, so
Yeah.
lots of time.
I just love the reports that you're creating, Danielle. They get better and better every year. I think I say this every time. So one of the things that I was wondering is, can some of the, like, the reports that you've created, it's evolved over the years. It's really helpful for us to have standardization in reporting. And not that I want to see your reports continue to evolve, but some of the elements, I'm just thinking 5-10 years into the future, it would be really a shame for us to lose some of the elements that you're reporting on, because for us, seeing the year over year changes is really helpful. So the question that I wrote down was, can certain elements presented in our financial statement and discussion analysis be written into policy so that we can see these year over year changes, and make it harder to hide, for example, whether projects are ending up costing more than what was budgeted? Like, that infographic is really descriptive for the board, and in terms of us doing our oversight, responsibility, just making sure that those sorts of questions aren't forgotten year over year. So just something to leave, as an item for us to discuss maybe in the future. Is there anything that we can ensure that the board is receiving year over year, that, should we not have the same team at the table, just making sure that those things aren't lost and that we're not starting fresh with something that isn't as fulsome as what we have now?
I can, so if you like, appreciate that. So the new, this financial statement discussion analysis, I believe, is part of policy, but I think the idea of even a housekeeping thing where we link to, a template, and then it's in there as a template to use to ensure that it might not change over.
But the template couldn't be changed. Like, if, for example, there were overages in budget for projects. I'm just using that as one example. And it might be in the interest of the people responsible for that to take that sort of reporting away, because they don't, without being asked, like the board would have to remember every time to ask it. Just having standard things, because those are excellent litmus tests for the health of the organization. And when you're healthy and you are, willing to disclose it because things are healthy and running well, that's great. But 5-10 years, things can change. So just making sure that we have these like really good litmus tests of the health of the organization, that the board doesn't lose those sorts of little snapshots of how things are going, because, we're all human beings. And
Not sure if we might be required to in the auditors, that's their work, but if you have a response time.
Yeah, I think, we are going to be reviewing some of our policies, even this year around business processes. So we can take it and see if there's anywhere that we can specify those type of things in there.
And maybe I'll look again more closely with that question in mind and bring some suggestions to the discussion. I don't think it needs to be complicated, but there's certain elements that I could see we would not be able to do our jobs as well if those things were ever lost in the future. And I'd love to have a rule that says, you got to tell us.
Are your projects right? Yeah.
Good governance.
And actually, I guess maybe this is a good time for me just to ask, does anybody have anything else that they wish they could see in the report that might be missing, or something of interest? Can think about it. So we can add additional information if anybody needs it.
I thought the report was really good. The only thing that I'll mention is that Donna had mentioned some governance documents that she's going to send to you for distribution to us. So perhaps there's a gem in there that we could rely on in the future.
There might be something that comes out of that might even speak to your idea that you just spoke of. That might, put a little bit more, some more parameters around what you're looking for. Distraction. All right. Okay. I don't see any more questions around financial statement overview. Danielle, it is really great. Like, I think there was a change at some point where this became a new document that was required, and I am really pleased that happened, because having this written report, I'm sure it's way more work. I know of course it's more work because it's another thing to do, but it really is a great document and you do a good job, and it makes it easy to read and to understand for those of us who are not particularly savvy in the world of finance. So thank you for that, and to Alana and all of the team for creating this document. I really appreciate it. There is a motion. Maybe we'll wait and we'll do all three of them together after we hear from Ian, who's been waiting patiently to deliver us the exciting news about minor capital plans that are coming to us in 2026, 2027.
Right.
And Mike.
Mike.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks. Yeah, we'll hand it over to you now that you have a mic. Go ahead, Ian. Thank you.
Perfect, thanks very much. So hopefully everybody's had a chance to take a look at the proposed project list for this year. It's similar to what you've seen in the past, I'm sure. So we're looking at not including buses this year, we're looking at putting a request in for 14 projects. I know that there's 15 above the buses noted, but of the two playground enhancement programs, we know we would only get one of those. We just maintain a list with the ministry. But I'll start at the top. And so in the SEP program, which is the school enhancement program, there's 5 projects listed, and that is again the ministry max we can do per year. So the number 1 project is the Pemberton Secondary energy efficiency upgrade, but we've slotted it under this school enhancement program due to the dollar value we're asking for. So this project has been put forward for many years now, and it's gone between the CNCP and the SCP for a number of years. The carbon neutral capital program has a lower dollar threshold per year. So we have phased that project trying to meet that sweet spot with the ministry. But the overall phasing of that project has always had it at about $3 million. So what we've done is we've asked our consultant to go back to the drawing board, find us an energy reduction optimization project that will slot in under the $2 million threshold for SEP. And we don't want it phased. So we put some significant challenges to the consultants this year. And they've come in with a single phase project this year, air-to-air heat pumps at Pemberton Secondary at 1.375. So that's been really great. So we're going to submit this as a standalone, not phased project. So hopefully we'll see some success here. In the future, we will be doing some optimization controls, which we will do as a separate project, so that again, we're trying not to have a huge dollar project for the ministry in the first request for funds. The systems will run perfectly well and achieve energy reduction goals, as well as comfort improvements for occupants without the optimization, but the optimization helps us with further energy reduction. So that we're, fingers crossed we'll get that one. Just for further info, the ministry typically approves 1 to 2 SEP and 1 to 2 CNCP per year. So probably not 4 projects under either combined under either funding model, but typically we'll get about 3 of those, but they can fund up to 4. So again, going down the list, we've got, we're looking at a project to provide some cooling, with climate change and how everything's getting super hot in the spring and the fall here in Squamish and throughout the whole corridor. We're looking for approval for providing some cooling to the classrooms that were involved with the pod renos a couple of years ago, the main floor and the second floor at Don Ross. The radiant heat in the courtyard is tremendous. There's a lot of heat loading on the windows. There's no cooling in those classrooms. So we're putting together a project. We've put together a project for $650,000 request to provide some cooling to those spaces. Then moving down, we've got under SCP, we've got a targeted roof replacement at Valley Cliff. That is the last 2 sections of Valley Cliff roof that we had some roofing done back in 2014 that is still performing well. It's still well within its warranty period. And so there's 2 sections on that school that falls in under that $500,000 range based on consultant report. So we hope we can do that, or we can do part of it under AFG if it doesn't get approved under SEP. Moving down the list again, we've got the second phase of the window project at Mamquam. We did one side of the building a couple of years ago, and we're putting it under request the other side of the building. Same with Statmas. We did windows at Statmas this year. If anybody's gone up, they look great, and the comfort is already notable. So that project turned out great. Anyway, we're asking for funds to complete that project. again, it's number 5 on the list, so it's a few years down. However, we can fund these with our AFG like we did the last couple of window projects. Then moving into CNCP, number 1 on the list this year is the phase 2 of window replacement at Squamish Elementary. So probably 4 years ago now, we did the south-facing windows at Squamish Elementary. So we're looking at going and doing the north side and completing that project. So that would be a really great one. It falls in a real nice funding amount, request amount with the Ministry for CNCP. So we're hopeful that that being our number 1, it will be approved by the ministry. And then moving down the list, we've got further HVAC upgrades, again, for optimization of equipment and increasing occupant comfort at Myrtle Phillip, and that's an air source central heat pump we're wanting to do there. $500,000 ask there. Then moving down the list, we've got windows requested at Valley Cliff, and then a couple of LED lighting upgrades further down the list in CNCP. Be great to see some of those projects. Again, they can be supported through AFG if they're not supported through minor capital requests. And then going down the list further, we've got on our playground enhancement program list, there's two schools noted. Valley Cliff is the top of the list. It's been on our list for a number of years. It is our number 1 priority, and then as we maintain this list, we're allowed to keep 2 on the tab in my caps with the ministry. So we've got Signal Hill noted as well, and this is for accessible playground equipment, so making it usable for all students regardless of ability. And then with respect to Valley Cliff, being our number 1 priority, we received funds for a playground upgrade at Squamish Elementary this year. And the ministry typically funds a playground enhancement project for us every 2nd year. So even though this is under this year's request, the likelihood of approval is low, but it would or should be approved for it would be the 27 school year. So yeah, they're kind of a tough one because the schools are all excited about getting this equipment and there's a definite need for it. But unfortunately, the way that's funded is it's every 2nd year. So it's a little bit further out. And then going down the list further, working with Marin. These are our food infrastructure program recommendations and requests. And so we're looking for funds to purchase new foods program equipment for Pemberton Secondary, Signal Hill Elementary, and Garibaldi Highlands. In this program, we do get funded every year. Typically, it's two projects. I'm allowed to submit 3. So, and we're tasked with our requests is keeping them at $100,000 or less. So we're trying to keep these all at that kind of sweet spot. So it's a favorable approval. So that's really exciting. And then finishing out the list, we've got a schwack of buses at the bottom here. Again, we've got 7 buses listed. We'd love to get them all replaced, but we're hoping for a minimum of 3 that are aged out, as well as condition reports to support their replacement. Just a little bit of background information on the bus program. In the submission in the past, there was an allowance for age or mileage. The wording in the capital plan submission instructions is and or. And in the past, we would have buses that would age out, never typically mileage out, and we had no problem replacing those. With the funding crunch across the province, they're requiring both. So the and or, I think, should be struck out of the instructions and just say and, so age and mileage. So our buses never mileage out. They age, they get old, or they rust out. So with this request now, we have third-party inspection reports to support the aged out buses. And so those 3, touch wood, should be replaced as a minimum out of the 7 that we're asking for.
Wow. Go ahead, Melissa.
I'm surprised that they don't mileage out. What is the mileage threshold?
As to, I don't know off the top of my head, actually. I think it's 500,000 kilometers. And typically in the life of our buses, when they age out, they're in the 250 range. So yeah, we're not meeting that 500,000 threshold. It depends on the type of bus, like the ministry has different aging and mileaging depending on whether it's the highway style diesel pusher buses, the big buses, or if it's a conventional bus, front engine, like old style school bus. Those they age and mileage out at a different rate. So the conventionals age out at 12 years, and the diesel pusher, the large highway buses, are 15 years. And I think the threshold for mileage is 500,000 K, but I can confirm that and get that information back to the board. Yeah. Yeah, it's disappointing actually.
It is, yeah. Okay, any other questions? I don't see any other questions, but I just wanted to make a comment. It's really interesting where you have in some of the line items, you've talked about what the savings will be by upgrading to a more energy efficient item.
Yeah.
And like, that's crazy, like the amount of savings. It's incredible what you can do by simply improving the infrastructure of, say, Windows.
Yeah.
So yeah, super interesting information. I really hope that the ministry is taking that into account when they look at these requests.
Yeah, they do. They ask us to provide this information
They
when
do.
we submit.
Okay.
One thing, interesting thing to note, if you look at upgrade, there's no savings. There's no dollar savings there. We're reducing our carbon footprint dramatically, 136 tons, 63%.
Yeah.
But how we're doing that is we are using electrical air source heat pumps. So our electrical consumption will go up, but the propane gas that we use in Pemberton will go down by 63%. So there's a zero savings as far as the utility costs. We're going to pay more for electricity, but it's helping our carbon reduction initiatives. So 136 tons is pretty big when we admit about 1,400 tons as a district. So that's a fairly significant reduction. So it's a good project.
Yeah, that's great.
I think you said something about, just wanted to clarify that air-to-air heat pump, that's going to mean that Pemberton Secondary will be could possibly be air conditioned?
There is already some cooling in Pemberton Secondary. Is one of the few schools that has, but this is, yes, heat pumps can
Be air
provide
conditioners, yeah.
cooling as well as heating. It just depends on how hot we get in the summer and how it's not specifically air conditioning. It's not like a AC unit you would have with a compressor and actually creates cool rads for the air to go through. This is drawing cooling out of the hot air outside and trying to cool it into the building. So if we're getting into the high 30s in, say, May or June or September, it's really hard for that equipment to provide the cooling into the school, but it does do a way more effective job than the existing systems. Okay. But unfortunately, we're still not supported based on our geographic area for cooling in our area of the province. If we were in the Okanagan, we could get cooling funded, no problem.
Okay. Go ahead, Melissa. And then Lisa.
When you put this in every year, do they go back and look at last year and say, okay, they've put in for the wing replacement for 3 years in a row, maybe we should give this to them, or is it a clean slate every year?
Well, it depends on how we're prioritizing. So we put in the project based on the highest need or the biggest bang for the buck is typically what we're looking at. So number 5, say out of CNCP, likely wouldn't be approved at the ministry level, because our number 1 priority is Squamish Windows, or number 2 is Myrtle Phillip. They'll look at those top 2. However, sometimes in their funding, they'll pick a number 5. So we like to maintain that on the list because it meets a dollar amount that they still have in their budget. They go, oh, we've got $200,000 left under CNCP. Howe Sound School District has a request in for a $200,000 window project. They may offer it to us, and that has happened once, I think, since I've been here. But as these other projects work off the list, we typically try to push the lower projects up.
Yeah.
Sometimes though, the HVAC projects or something comes up with aging equipment typically related to HVAC, that becomes a higher priority. So those other projects idle along in the 4 or 5 area. But like I said, we typically can fund portions of this, if not the whole project, through our annual facility grant, and they all qualify under that program.
Thank you.
And Lisa, go ahead with your.
Yeah, Ian, I always love your reports. One thing I just wanted to highlight is the playground accessibility upgrades. If there's a capacity to make them sun safe as well, given the rates of skin cancer going up, all the things like that one, I would like our kids to have somewhere safe outside to be as well, that's protected and shaded. So
Absolutely. So the way that the PEP is structured, it's very specific on what we can spend that money on, and it is really focused on just the equipment and accessibility to the equipment. So, make sure that there's really low transitions for students in wheelchairs or with mobility issues and stuff. So it's looking at the surface around the equipment and the equipment being accessible. We're looking as a district, how can we incorporate some sort of shading or cooling with these projects? We're actually looking at one for the daycare at Signal Hill. There's a component of that project that is outside play space, but we need to find shading for that. So there's like to build an outdoor classroom, minimum is probably between 200 and 250 to do a decent size. So those kinds of roof structures are quite expensive, but we're looking at finding ways that we can afford to do that. Working with PACS if they want to support outdoor spaces that benefit the students. We've got a program where we support that already as a district. But yeah, it's becoming more and more of a concern every year with these projects, with the outdoor projects, that we find some way to shade the area as well.
thanks.
Thank you for that. And Lisa, with that note, the Canadian School Board Association Conference had a presentation on climate ready schools. And I sent a link to everyone, and you can just Google Irma Paulson Public School in Milton, Ontario. You'll love it. Anyway, that's a little side note. Are there any more questions about Ian's presentation?
Just with respect to the aging out of the buses, we've talked about this before, so I just remember that conversation. And for the benefit of the public, the reason why our buses don't mile out is because of the salt on the roads, if I remember correctly. So facilities do the best that they can with maintenance and washing of the buses and making sure that we get the salt off. But that is the reason in this particular area, which is based on like Miller Capilano, the various municipalities, the policies that they have around snow and ice mitigation, which are not decisions that we have control of. Our buses just drive on those roads. So that is the reason why our buses might not make it to 500,000 kilometers.
Yeah, that's exactly the problem that we're up against every year. And we have had access to undercarriage a wash system in Whistler. We don't have that anymore with BC Transit. There was liability issues, worried about us not following the procedures for using the equipment, not that there was any problems with us accessing that. So we are actually looking at an undercarriage system that is portable. I mean, it's seasonal. We don't want something that's going to freeze and create ice around it, but we are looking at solutions for that to help extend the life on our buses. And it's interesting too that they're not using, high corrosion resistant steel in the frames on these buses. It's just sort of standard as it's been done for 50, 60 years. And there's no undercoating when the buses come from the factory. So there's a few things that I feel should be done. But we're pretty excited about the undercarriage wash thing.
Then I think it's another opportunity for advocacy, because differential between jurisdictions that have more snow, like
Yeah.
we do, and as opposed to another district that may have busing but not have the same weather issues, again, it's back to equity, right? So.
So almost a
Fun-
special,
fun
a special
different
purpose
process.
fund.
Right,
That's right,
for districts that have those issues.
Times the salt, they're not using the salt, it's the liquid, they're eating the.
But who would you advocate to? Like, what would that look like?
Oh, for it's the Ministry of Education and then they would, you know, have that conversation potentially with the Ministry of Transportation to,
Yes.
you know, it's, so either they're looking at the materials or it's the ministry providing additional funding for buses, because our buses are gonna be rusting out at a faster rate than other jurisdictions that have provided school buses.
So like a special.
So
Send us with a coated undercarriage, send us
absolutely
buses that have
done.
it.
That would
Okay.
help.
Done.
Anyway,
Once we get the buses.
no, we're gonna be done.
Okay.
We can do that.
I'm making a list of avenues.
But we have limited funds available
Right.
when we're putting other options into the bus. So we have a number of things that sadly are more important than prolonging the life of the bus.
So increase our funding so that we can do
Yeah.
those extras that would save the taxpayer money in the end as well.
What a concept. Okay, all right. Ian, thank you very much for your presentation. I think we have all asked all of our questions, unless I am incorrect. Are there any more questions? Don't see any others. Okay, that brings us to some recommendations that we have to make to bring out in the public meeting. So is there anyone prepared to make the recommendation pertaining to the 2024-2025 audited financial statement?
That the Finance Committee recommends to the Board of Education approve the audited financial statements for the year ended June 30th, 2025 as presented.
Second.
Thank you, Lisa. Is there any more discussion on that item? Seeing none, are there any objections? Seeing none, that recommendation will be moved forward to the open meetings as approved. Our second recommendation is for the financial statement discussion and analysis. Is there someone?
That the Finance Committee recommends the Board of Education approve the financial statement discussion and analysis document as presented.
Thank you, Lisa. Is there a seconder for that motion? Thank you, Rachel. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none. Is anyone opposed to that motion? Seeing none, that's also carried. And then finally, we have a recommendation for the 2026-2027 Miller Capilano plan. No. Let me say that again. The recommendation for the 2026-2027 minor capital plan. Is there someone who'd like to make that recommendation?
That the Finance Committee recommends the Board of Education approve the 2026-2027 minor capital plan as presented.
Thank you, Lisa and Ms. Rachel, thank you very much. Any further discussion? Seeing none, is anyone opposed to that? Seeing none, that is also carried. Are there any questions of clarification from the public? There are not. All right, seeing none, I believe that we have covered all of the agenda items in this agenda, and all of our work is concluded. Thus, we can call this meeting adjourned at 12:03 p.m. All right, we'll break for lunch and then we are back at